Debunking Christmas Myths, Uncovering the Truth About the Nativity. Christmas. It's that magical time of year when we celebrate the birth of Jesus. But what if I told you that much of what we think we know about the Nativity story isn't in the Bible? From Mary's donkey to the wise men, some of these myths might surprise you, and one will absolutely change the way you see Christmas. Stick around because we're tackling 6 myths about Christmas, and I'll reveal the biggest myth of all at the very end. Let's kick it off with myth number 1. Mary rode a donkey to Bethlehem. You've seen it in every Christmas movie and nativity play, right? But here's the truth. The Bible never says Mary rode a donkey. Luke tells us that Joseph took Mary to Bethlehem because of the census. But it doesn't mention how they traveled. For all we know, they walked the entire way or used a cart. The donkey? That's just tradition. It makes sense to imagine a donkey. Mary was heavily pregnant after all. But remember, it's not biblical fact. It's just a story we've added over the years. Now, let's move on to myth number 2. There were 3 wise men who visited Jesus. That's what we sing about in We Three Kings. But it's not what the Bible says. Matthew simply mentions Magi from the east, bringing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. There were 3 gifts, but the Bible doesn't say how many Magi there were. There could have been 2, 4, or even 10. The idea of 3 wise men probably comes from the 3 gifts. It's neat and tidy, but the Bible doesn't give us a number. The truth is, the number of Magi is still a mystery. Myth number 3 is a follow-up to the last one. The wise men were there the night Jesus was born. Spoiler alert, they weren't. Matthew says the Magi visited Jesus in a house, not a stable. Scholars believe this visit could have been months or even up to 2 years after his birth. The shepherds and the Magi? They never met. So next time you see a nativity scene with shepherds on one side and wise men on the other, remember, it's a mashup of events, not a real-time gathering. Myth number 4. Mary and Joseph were turned away by a grumpy innkeeper who said, "No room at the inn." Sound familiar? Well, that innkeeper might not exist. In Luke 2:7 it says, "There was no room for them in the inn." But the Greek word used here, kataluma, is better translated as guest room. Mary and Joseph were likely staying with family, but because the guest room was full, they used a space where animals were kept. That's right. The innkeeper is likely a fictional character we've added over the years. Jesus was still born in humble circumstances, but not because of a heartless landlord. Myth number 5 is going to shake up your Christmas traditions. Jesus was born on December 25th. But here's the reality. He probably wasn't. In Luke 2:8, we're told shepherds were living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks at night. In Bethlehem, this doesn't happen in December. It's too cold. Scholars believe Jesus was born in the spring or fall. So why December 25th? That date likely comes from the Roman festival of Saturnalia, a pagan holiday. Early Christians may have chosen it to make Christianity more relatable to pagans. But don't worry, it's not about when we celebrate, it's about why. And finally, we've arrived at myth number 6. Jesus was born in a cozy wooden stable, surrounded by clean hay and adoring animals. It's a beautiful image, but it's not accurate. Mangers in first-century Israel were usually made of stone, not wood. And the stable? It was likely a cave or a lower level of a family home where animals were kept. The real nativity scene wasn't sanitized or picturesque. It was messy and humble, but that's what makes it so powerful. So what's the biggest takeaway from all these myths? It's this. We've romanticized the nativity so much that we risk missing its deeper meaning. Jesus wasn't born into a fairy tale. He entered a messy, broken world, into poverty and imperfection. And yet, that's the beauty of it. God meets us in our brokenness, not in perfection. The nativity isn't about perfect moments or polished traditions. It's about God's ultimate act of love, humbling himself to bring hope to us all. That's the real Christmas story. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the 6 biggest myths about the Nativity. Did any of these surprise you? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves Christmas. Merry Christmas and God bless!